the director of Four Seasons Travels and Tours. He is also the club growth director of District 41 and consultant in International Development Institute. He is engaged in many business schools in Kathmandu Valley as the adjunct faculty member. He has been featured in the cover page of Toastmasters International magazine's global issue for December 2018. Today, he will be delivering this session on the topic leadership basics. Before handing over the session to you, I'd like to request all the attendees to please type in your questions during the session so that we can take it during the questions and answers round. So, Toastmaster Pankaj Pradhananga, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Kritika ji. Namaste, everyone present here. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. Before I start, Kritika ji, please, if you can just time me or write me in the chat up to 40 minutes, 35 minutes and 40 minutes. So I will wrap up accordingly. And I would love to have Q&A. So I keep 20 minutes for Q&A round. But if anyone has any questions as I progress, please feel absolutely free and you can write in the chat. So I would incorporate those questions. However, we will have a dedicated session for Q&A. So let's.
I'll be ending you, so you can start the session. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now, once again, good morning, everyone, all road tractors and the leaders. The leadership basics. Before I start this or even touch upon this very topic, let me say a story. The story goes back to February 2020, when the pandemic hit the world. And that was after a month when we were all in lockdown mode. I got a call from a friend who is also an entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur, managing many businesses in technology. And I picked his call and I asked as a normal salutation, I mean, how are you? And he said, not too bad. And knowing him for a while, that he is always someone who looked up and upbeat and go-getter type. He said, not too bad. So that made me think, and I knew clearly that the situation was such, everyone was under absolute challenge of COVID. So him saying not too bad was not really a surprise. After about a week, I got another call from a friend, and he lived outside Nepal, and there was also a lockdown. And as there was a certain relaxation in lockdown, he did go out. And I asked, how are you, Harizi? And he said, oh, I'm really great. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to. And I said, wow, what makes you feel so excited and cheerful? And he said, you know what? I went to hike to the highest point in England, and that was a charity walk. I raised some funds, and I'm sending that fund to the persons with disabilities in my hometown or in the western part of Nepal. So that was something made me think. Someone who was running a business, over 50 people working for him, and very successful business. Yes, there was a recess temporarily, but there was another person who was really upbeat and looking forward to lead the team of a community by service leadership. Now, let me share. Okay, I don't know if I'm on Spotlight, but I believe so. Okay, I hope you can see the screen as I cannot see you all now. And he is
Yes.
he is Hariji. Now you can see him. Do you find something very special about him? Yes, as we can notice, and as we can clearly see that he is no ordinary person. Hari Buddha Magar met with an accident, or he was a British Army veteran. He was stationed in Afghanistan, and where he met in an ambush attack where he lost both of his legs and he was amputated. So now he's amputee. That was 2010, 10 years ago. But interestingly, he he did not give up. Despite of being a military with no legs, above knee amputee, yes, he did go through roller coaster ride, a few spells of depression leading to even suicidal tendency, but he did jump and he did get back to his normal life. But not just normal life, he became inspiration to many people around, giving them hope as well as giving them inspiration and resources. So two different people, two different leaders in their domain. But here you can see there's clearly a difference because someone was leading his business and the second person was leading by example. He was leading not only his business, but he was leading his community. Um, so now I believe I'm experiencing a bit of hiccup. I hope you can see the picture of Harizi as I had already shown. But the point it raises, and as Kritikaji introduced me, thank you for a very nice introduction. But let me also tell you a fact that I have been working in tourism and innovating this industry in a different way. I got connected with Harizi because I started working for people with disabilities. And as you know, Nepal is known for its mountains. We have 8 mountains above 8,000 meters. That is a big plus to Nepal as a destination. However, that also poses a big question mark to the people who think they are not ultra fit, people who are old, retired, slow workers. And what about people who are having physical disabilities like Hariji? That's where I would share my some of leadership lessons that I've learned walking this path and meeting people who are leaders in their own right, and they lead people and their community by example. Let me share the story of my mentor who I met. His name is Dr. Scott Rains. I met him in California in one of my trips for marketing as we are selling trips to Nepal filled with adventure culture. I asked myself, can I do something differently this time? And I did know that there are people with disabilities who wanted to travel to Nepal, and few had already made it to Nepal on a sporadic way, not in very organized way. And there I found Dr. Scott Rains, who was one of the key leaders of disability movement. For the benefit of those who are not aware of this fact, that even in the United States, people with disability did not have much right until 1990. So that is not really a long time ago. It's only 30 years ago. They had to fight for their rights. They had to capture capital, not the way we watched on television a couple of months ago, but for their right. And Dr. Scott Rains, one of the key leaders in that movement. So I wrote to Dr. Scott Rains, knowing the fact that he is a wheelchair user and an eminent leader, one of the eminent leaders. I did not expect a reply back from him because he didn't know me and I was not recommended to him by anyone. But to my surprise, I got his email back very next morning and said, well, if you can come to San Jose, I'm around and I'm very happy to see you. I went there and you can see him, the person with white beard. I met him and he gave me not only time, but a lot of insights, ideas, and why we should go for this. We should try. Nepal must embrace this tourism and enable people. So as we Nepali do at the time of leaving Ferry Betonla, we'll see you again. But I didn't know how, when. And I said, we'll see you in Nepal. But we were very fortunate and we did work to make us ourselves fortunate enough. We bought his ticket, Horses and Travel, and we got other stakeholders to host his trip. And that's how we came to Nepal. The point is that helped us to break that status quo from fixed mindset, growth mindset. Many of my friends and associates, industry friends, they said, don't even try this. That was 2013. Because back then, we were going through a bit of political turmoil, still things were in transition. The new constitution was not enacted. So it was a daunting task even for regular tourism, but you're thinking about bringing people with disabilities. But yes, when you have a vision, things fall into places. And exactly that's what happened. Dr. Scott Rains came here after 10 months and we visited. I got a chance to travel with him for 10 days, and that was me personally and the people in Nepal, persons with disabilities. It was a great moment to learn. To see him travel alone from the US and to inspire people in Nepal, not only persons with disabilities, but hoteliers, tour trek operators, guides, airline professionals. So wherever you went, he radiated that energy. And it was not an easy thing to do, but the right thing to do. So the question arises here, that led to many other initiatives after I worked with him. You can see Jeza, who is a good friend, and he was here in 2019. After meeting with an accident and being wheelchair bound, he started flying. As you can see, he now does paragliding with his wheelchair, and we call him Unstoppable Jeza. So there are many other people I met, and I always got a lot of energy and inspiration to lead by example and to lead self. So here comes the question that what builds the foundation of leadership? I've met people in business, in disabled community, or persons who are just traveling, going around and inspiring people. So what are the basics they have, the traits, that very attribute that makes them unstoppable, despite of being physically challenged or not having enough resources? So what I found that this may not fit within the literature of leadership, but still a attitude. They are really people who have attitude of gratitude. Even Jeza, when I met him in one of conferences about accessible tourism, I found him to be super humble and very grateful. He said, I met with an accident in Switzerland and it took me 1.5 years to rehabilitate. Even I had to teach myself how to hold spoon and how to feed myself. Coming up to this point whereby I'm traveling now and flying, I can't be more grateful. That attitude of being humble and being really grateful enables us to do a lot more than we think we are capable of. So that is A, and believe or belief. Do we believe in ourselves? Many a times we look up for others' validation, what others would say, whether they trust or they believe that I can do it. Perhaps there we need to have that very strong will that it is me. And there comes the million dollar statement by Socrates, know thyself. Unless we know ourselves, no one else will believe. So to become a leader and to believe in yourself will enable others to believe in your dream. Unless you believe in yourself, no one else will. That's a very simple, logical thing. And communication, whether it was Dr. Scott Rains I met, Jayza, or many people I've come across and I call them leaders or I look up to them as leaders, I've found a unique trait. All of them are natural communicator. They have that competency as well as willingness to communicate. And the key point is they do not communicate to impress. Let me repeat, they do not communicate to impress, but to impact. So I'll touch there later. So attitude of gratitude. You can see a lady, she came all the way from Australia. She went to Everest Base Camp by wheelchair, and she did that because she read about Scott Rains' trip to Nepal. And can you believe the fact that she had never, her name is Julie, she had never traveled out of Australia, and she straight away came to Nepal, went to Tibet, and went to all those places, exotic places where many people in Nepal have not been to. And she helped the community doing volunteering work in Jor Party for a month. So that gratitude, when you celebrate what you have, you'll have more reasons to celebrate. So it is absolutely important for leaders to count their blessings, not their sorrows. And we have ample examples. Now, though I can't see you or I can't engage you, but what do you see here in this picture now? Okay, I think yes, you can see a cycle, right? So anyone, can you write in your chat log if there's something special about this cycle? I hope, Kritika ji, everyone is allowed to write or, yes?
Yes, sir. The chat is open to everybody.
Can I see where's the chat? Okay, so the cycle, anything special about this cycle? I'll be, I know some of you are avid cyclists. That's what I was told. Uh, okay, well, I don't see, perhaps, okay, I can see, please show it again. Great, thank you, at least, yes. Well, the technology, you never get enough learning because we think we are too dependent on Zoom. So this is the price I'm paying. So I'm learning now. Okay. Yes, now I hope you can see the cycle. Kritika ji, can you confirm? Because I can't see you now.
Yes, sir. The cycle is visible.
So now, what do you see about the cycle? What, when I saw this cycle and I clicked, I only thought this is a cycle, right? But can you see beyond this as a cycle? Okay, I can see some of the in the chat log. Now, can you write down what do you think is so special about this cycle? Can't see cycle, yes. Join the chat, access to the chat. Okay, no, hang on. This is okay. Anyway, so you did see a cycle, and everyone saw cycle, right? It's chain. Okay, great. Srijana Poon is writing. So let me see if I can find something what I was looking for. Temporarily, okay. It's a chain. Well, classic vintage cycle. Thank you, Mansi. It's beautiful. Yes, it's a vintage cycle. You know, if you ride around, it will be a cool stuff. You know, everyone, it will turn. Three Idiots cycle. Great. Fine. That's absolutely great. So now I'll get back to my business. See, this cycle is no ordinary cycle, right? Why? Because this cycle is no ordinary cycle, because this cycle was the one which was made and sold by Wright brothers. Yes, the very same Wright brothers who who made, who invented the first flying machine. So as other people saw it as a cycle and they bought it, but they raised money by selling these cycles to fuel the research R&D or their dream project of coming up with flying machine in Dayton, Ohio. So when you go to this museum, you still see this cycle there. And this is what we call belief, you know. They believed in their dream. Whereas in the in the east US, there was government-funded project where Mr. Langley was doing all this research, heavily funded. He was academically qualified person to do that research, whereas they did not have any funding. And it is interesting to read when you go there. You find that the government or the state did not believe that they really made or they invented flying machine. And it took a couple of months back then to send the team to confirm that yes, the flying machine was already invented. So it is the belief. Do you believe in yourself, and do you make others believe in your dream? It is your job. There's no hard and fast or quick fix, but believing. And the communication, when I said many of us, I was also the same person, and I'm still a bit of butterflies I get, and I. The only difference is now I can fly those butterfly in style. And let's see how communication makes or breaks the experience. Now let's watch this short video. So as you can see, precise communication at the right place and the right time can define your success or failure. So many a times we fail to communicate. The art of communication is the language of successful leaders, or you can also say it's a strategic tool to a leader to be able to communicate. And as you saw, that the only difference between other animals and the rabbit was he mustered that courage to go and communicate. And when he was able to communicate, he could negotiate as well, right? As the saying goes, no ask, no get. If you never ask and become fearful, you can't expect to get or get beyond that, right? So here comes a question, what makes a great leaders? So now let me ask, can you write down in your chat very quickly one attribute that you think makes a great leader? I just give you 30 seconds. Idea to make change. Thank you, Srijana. Wonderful. Communication. Yes, that's a tool. Kindness. Beautiful. Decision. Yes, they are able to take decision. Self-discipline. Beautiful. Creating impact. Vision. Flexibility. Knowledge. Excellent. So all these attributes are innovation. Yes. Courage and communication. Excellent. So now we can see that these leaders, as this question continues, that are leaders born or they are made? In the past, yes, when we look back, leaders were born. You know, you'd be born in a certain family, or you'd be the son of an emperor, so that's what gets you in the leadership role. But now, as you can see, Prithviraj Shah, the founding father of Nepal, or if you look at Nelson Mandela, they all are leaders or were leaders. Even Mr. Kulman Gising, as we know, that he did something what very few even imagined that that was possible, right? He was not just discharging the duty of his role, but he was going beyond that. So what makes a great leader? You know, this question comes, and it should come, and we all need to ask, because there's no one set formula or quick fix or secret sauce that you just take and become a leader. No, it is pretty long journey, and it is like there's no one size fits all. But having said that, there are certain attributes that you can see among the leaders. Yes, as you said, it starts from self-leadership. Before you lead others, make sure that you lead yourself. Anyone who can identify or recognize the person, which is the statue in the right side, if you know, please keep writing in the chat. If you can just guess, he was a leader, and the leader who's saying, so you know, like we say, when you are in Rome, do as Romans do. And my friends, it has nothing to do with fashion or food. It is about this person. Okay, keep guessing. You lead to impact. You don't lead to impress. And your leadership is not measured by the number of followers you have. At times we mistake, or we get totally carried away by the political leadership, where they brag or they claim that I can bring millions of people and that's my leadership ability. Well, that leadership ability may last for a day or two, but not for centuries. And that's what this person did. He led by example, and he led to impact. This Latin word servus servorum means something, and this is the highest title given to Pope, Jesuit, or Catholic. No, not only Jesuit, but the Catholic, um, Pope who is in Rome, commands but not control from Vatican, and Christianity is the highest number of people on this planet. So his title, Servus Servorum, is nothing but it says you are the servant of servants. So what does it tell? The leader has to have that service leadership attributes, that humility, that very realization that it is not going to last forever. I'm not the position. I'm not that very kursi or that chair or that title. Right? I'm here to serve. And the minute you have that humility, that realization, you would lead by example, and you just don't lead to impress, you lead to impact. And at present time, it is absolutely important, as the world is going through existential crisis. The businesses are at stand still mode. People are not seeing still light at the end of the tunnel, though in Europe and US slowly it's coming back. And thank God the vaccine is also around and it's being administered now. But still, is it something that we should complain, or we make something out of it? As a leader, your job is not to complain, but to complement and find ways, as Winston Churchill beautifully said, never waste a good crisis. Perhaps this is the time we need to ask, is this crisis meant to make me better, make me more resilient, and make me something that I didn't know I was, or I had that potential? So here comes the power of your mind. If you look at people, whether it was Prithvinarayan Saha, for those who are in Nepal or know about him, what little I knew about him was, I just read that he went from Gorkha, attacked Kantipur on Indra Jatra, and he became the king of Nepal Mandal. Back then, Nepal Mandal was Kathmandu Valley, and he became the king of Nepal. But what I did not know, that he took 26 years. Yes, he became king at the tender age of 21, and he could conquer Kathmandu Valley only at the age of 46. He spent his entire life to follow his vision or his mission. So for that, obviously, it was not an easy ride to him. It was a pretty roller coaster. And the fact remains, back then, Gorkha was a small principality, whereas Kathmandu was a very strong kingdom. And those who did not know about Nepal's glorious history, back then Nepal's coin, Mahindra Malli, used to be circulated in Tibet, and that went on for 200 years. Like US dollar is circulated all over the world, Nepali coin, silver coins were the very medium of transaction in Tibet. Kathmandu Valley was the thriving trading hub where the Indian merchants, traders came from Kashmir, from Tibet. And a prince or a king of Gorkha with little or no experience, to have that dream or that vision of building that empire was like a startup from Nepal eyeing to defeat a heavyweight or a tech company in Silicon Valley. But he did it because he knew that power resides not in your boundary, but in the mind. You know? So as the saying goes, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them, right? And here I take this Viktor Frankl, and I encourage you to read, whether you read Prithvinarayan Saha's Dibyopadesh, it is very good, summary of what he did, his vision, mission, and how did he achieve it. At times, we only go up to what Steve Jobs did, what Elon Musk did. Yes, of course, that's incredibly groundbreaking leadership. But what we can see around us and also relate to the leaders who grew out of nowhere and achieved what we still take great pride of, right? So when we cannot change the situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. And that's what the Homo sapiens is all about. I'm sure some of you or all of you have read Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens. Please do read. That tells us that we are not only resilient species, we are anti-fragile. That's why we're still around, and now we are going to other planets and beyond space, right? So as the saying goes, the best steel has to go through the hottest fire. The fire is not here to break, that will build you. Here I would like to just add the story. Again, I'm going back to cycle, right? In Germany, in 1815, there was a massive volcano eruption in Mount Tambora that killed all the animals, the horses, because back then horses were the means of transportation, right? So when the horses were killed and the volcanic that eruption completely deserted the cities and no more horses, then guess what? There was the invention of bicycle. Baron Karl did his patent of bicycle 1818, 1818, 3 years time. So the crisis, though we can complain, oh, why did it happen in this point in time when I'm looking forward to start my career, my business, my further studies, or to start something in my family? That is not in your control. But what is in your control? What can I make out of it? Either you can complain and cry over lemon, or you make it lemonade in a very simple term, right? So leaders don't waste the opportunities. They seize the opportunities, and they are the ones who are remembered, right? I would quickly show you this is, I'll share the link and I'll ask Kritika ji to share this link with you. But let me show a very short conversation. Okay, looks like so here, fine. What I'll do is I'll just share that later, and we also respect the time. As I said, okay, Kritika ji will flag me shortly. So here I would let me also give you, as we said about whether that was Mount Tambora or Prithviraj Saha or Wright brothers, right? We don't waste the good crisis, right? The crisis come to build us, not to break us, right? So there comes a catch, and let me say that leaders not only practice this basic service leadership. Within that framework, the vision, direction, persuasion, support, development, appreciation, these things come out when you become humble and practice attitude of gratitude, when you believe in yourself, and when you become compassionate. You just do not communicate, but you communicate with empathy and compassion, right? So you are bound to be a leader that people look up to, and there you do not need to command and control. Thank you, Kritika ji. Let me share, I was part of one of the seminars recently where even the oldest organization in Nepal, the Nepali army, they were looking at embracing change and to become more professional organization. Needless to say, that is the organization which has got the proven experience of organizational learning. But the beauty is that very organization wants to learn from the practitioners, from academia, and make themselves more agile and more competent. As you know, Nepali army also works and are highly respected in United Nations peacekeeping force. So now they are preparing their officers, their team, staff members to be able to competitive in global arena, right? So the learning continues. So the very learning that I could got, though I shared some of my learnings as change management or how this compassionate leadership can work, one thing I learned, you need to keep on learning. You learn and unlearn, the minute you feel that I know everything, the arrogance kick in, the ghamanda, right? Buddha has put it 5 types of ghamanda or arrogance we are infected with, which is very infectious. रूप को घमंड, बल को घमंड, ज्ञान को घमंड, धन को घमंड, वर्गीय घमंड. You're very proud of your wealth, your knowledge, your strength, your beauty, and your community, or sometimes people from higher caste or lower caste or different class. These things are not going to be with you forever. Anitya. That's what he taught. So what we need at this stage or any stage in your life is this basic realization that you have a spiritual operating software within you that allows you to lead by example, not to lead to impress. Let me share one recent example. We were part of one training in India, and our president of Toastmaster International, President-elect, was there to give us leadership lessons. And as in Rotary, service, fellowship, diversity, integrity, leadership, we also have IRSE, integrity, respect, service. And he said, as he came to give this leadership lesson, he said, okay, this evening when you see me, just come and call me Richard. You don't have to be formal. You don't have to call me Mr. President or Mr. So-and-so. I'm not the position. I'm here for a while. I do my job for a year, and then I'm gone. I go back to my club and I do my club business. So he did not associate himself as the position. That position came to him for a while, and he knew that it is not his position. This can be a mental hack or a spiritual software that you can upgrade yourself, upload yourself. It is beyond religion. If religion can make you strong mentally, do follow it. There's nothing wrong. But there have been, whether it was Siddhartha Gautama, we take great pride. Buddha was born in Nepal, or he is, he spread, it grew in Indian subcontinent. But what we fail to learn is his teaching. What he said was very simple. Things are impermanent. Suffering is there, and you need to find out the ways to get out of it, right? So people have done this. This picture who you see, his name was James Bond Stockdale, and this Stockdale paradox is one of the very important stories for not only people in military, but anyone can learn from him. He was the highest ranking army official who was captured in Vietnam War and put in Hanoi Hilton. It was nothing to do with the Hilton Hotel, but that was his where he was, put, tortured brutally. 7.5 years, not a month or two. We were vulnerable when we were put behind, inside house with all internet and all facilities for a couple of months. But he was captured, brutally tortured, and he didn't know whether he would come out in one piece or alive. But after 7.5 years, when he came out, people could not believe. American Army top-ranking officials could not believe on their eyes that he was absolutely insanity. He was absolutely in his peace of mind. Though his body was frail, but his mind was as strong and rather very, very anti-fragile state. And when asked, he said, I practice a Stoic philosophy. The philosophy that was practiced by Roman emperor who ruled Rome. That's what I had showed you earlier picture, Marcus Aurelius, this gentleman who ruled Rome from 161 AD to 180 AD. Absolute emperor. Back then he had 200,000 soldiers. Ruled from England to Egypt, entire Mediterranean basin. But he ruled by virtue. Though that core value, he always said, God has put me on throne, so I have to deliver my duty. And he used to write his diary, which later was published as Meditation. You might want to look for Meditation by Marcus Aurelius. Is amazing. This is not a book. That is the diary he used to write himself. And someone wrote discipline. Yes, he is an epitome of discipline, despite of being the absolute emperor. He was super disciplined. He would say, Marcus, today you'll meet people who are absolutely rude and ignorant. Don't lose your cool. That's not your problem. Or you would write that, Marcus, you have to leave the warm bed. You are not here to feel good. You are here to serve. So the reason why people, or this saying, or this, when you roam, do as Romans do, because Romans by then ruled by virtue. People looked up to Marcus. Do as Marcus Aurelius do. People said to each other, be that virtuous. And the leaders are remembered even after 2000 years, right? So this gentleman also practiced the very same Stoic philosophy what Marcus was following. And when he came out, he became the chief of Army Naval College, and where he introduced this Stoic philosophy, what helped the leaders who worked in high stress environment, the leaders who wanted to lead by virtue, the leaders who wanted to lead their team not by command and control, but by compassion. And perhaps this is the time when we have or we can practice this. So formal position does not give you that respect. You need to earn that respect. You may get the position, but earning that respect is your job. And how do you do this? You do that by earning their respect through communication. You have to be a brutally serious listener. Listening is one of the best ways to communicate and give respect to others. When you become better listeners, you don't have to do anything else. People like you. So we need to look beyond command and control, and you lead people not by forcing them, but by lifting them up, by enabling them. So leaders create more leaders. Leaders don't really count their followers. Even if you create one leader, you should consider yourself a success. But I'm sure you have more than one leader. So in nutshell, become the master of your mind before you lead yourself or you lead to your team. Right? Have faith in yourself because you're unique. Don't look at others' motivation. You are the only person who can motivate yourself. You can be inspired by others' stories, like Marcus Aurelius. He motivated himself. So go beyond your limits. Discover the leader in you, which is already there. The only thing you need to do is take time and ask yourself, what difference can I make and how can I make that very impact? Thank you. And I stop this presentation and I would love to hear your questions, and I would answer to the best of my ability. Kritika ji, are we good with time?
It's 1 o'clock.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, individual of believing in yourself being more important to make others believe in you was a very important takeaway for all of us. You also highlighted the points that positive approach and providing opportunities, expressing gratefulness of the opportunities that we get, opening up about our fears and believing in the power of our thought was a very important thing for all of us. And thank you for highlighting these things so that we can become better leaders of ourselves first and then for others. We have received some questions. I would like to read them out for you. Amrit Marasini has asked, how can you make members more engaging as a leader, where in Rotaract there are no monetary benefits, but only feeling of service?
Thank you. I didn't get the name. Whose question was it?
Amrit Marasini.
Okay. Thank you, Rotrak. Amrit, how can you make member more engaging as a leader? See, you are the leader, and you lead by example. In other words, you should be able to tell the new leaders or the leaders who are regularly irregular in the action or in your club. It's not what do they get joining Rotary or Rotaract, but who they become. That is important. So many a times we are carried away by our goals, our targets, and we want to look good in the community. Rather than that, when you be good and you become better version of yourself. So as a leader, your job would be to show that how have you evolved. And when you do it genuinely, not to impress, again, let's get out of that illusion that, looking good is the only goal of our life. Not really. That is very temporary. But when you tell them, help them, mentor them, and make them feel special, make them feel important. So that is your job as a leader, and try and connect. Their communication would be the key. Perhaps they look up to you and they think, oh, you are really good, you are a good communicator, you are a good leader, but we cannot become like you. Tell them that I was also like you, or perhaps I was even really nervous when I joined and I didn't see much, but as I grew, because there's no instant gratification. Instant coffee, instant noodles are no good. If you want to become nutritious, you have to go for nutritious diet, which takes time, right? So I personally think that you need to communicate and show the bigger picture and the benefits to that person. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Richa Aryal has asked, sir, you discussed about many leadership figures. However, if you were to choose only one leader you personally idolize a lot, would that one particular leader be and why?
Okay, well, this is very dynamic. Thank you, Richa. Very good, very pertinent question. But as we know, to get inspiration, we should not stick to one. I was highly impressed when I went to Calcutta and visited Missionary of Charity, the room where Mother Teresa lived all these years. That is hardly 8 by 8, very tiny room, one bed, a cupboard, and a desk, a telephone. That's it, what she possessed. But people looked up to her as the symbol of compassionate leadership, service leadership. So wherever I go, Prithvinand Shah for that matter, he led by example. And as I said, coming from a very humble background, back then Gorkha, compared to Gorkha, Palpa, Lamjung, or Makwanpur were way mightier than Gorkha. Forget Kathmandu, but he did achieve what he wanted to achieve. So they are leaders, whether you talk about Prithvinand Saha, whether you talk about Mother Teresa, whether you talk about Nelson Mandela. So I personally do not just stop with one leader. I get inspiration from there. And then you don't really look up to those. You can look to your own parents. They have led by example. You can look around leaders in your own family. They are not much known, and it's fine because they are leading by example. They are not leading just to look good. So good leadership traits are to be appreciated. It's not who does it, how do they do it, that is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Keshav has asked, how can we monitor the performance of the people that we lead, that we have to lead?
That's a pretty tricky. Okay, how do we monitor? You monitor as a friend, you monitor as a well-wisher, but how do you evaluate, or how do you give some sort of feedback? That's where it comes. You need to have a bit of technique you need to apply. You monitor someone is performing, they're star performers. Some go very slow. But here we need to understand that we do not mistake activity with productivity. Some people may put in 12 hours a day, right? They show up way before given time and they stay around until late. But what really matters is the productivity. So when you monitor people for the performance, do not monitor how many hours they have put in, but what result they have brought in. And some people, despite of their best ability and input, they cannot perform well. It is even more challenging communication you are in. At that point in time, you need to be compassionate leader. You need to appreciate the effort he or she has put in, not the outcome, because you know that the person did put his best, effort. So you need to have, the sandwich approach of communication, where you communicate, you comment, and then recommend to improve, and then again comment, right? So perhaps you want to give more appreciation that point in time, right? So monitoring is incomplete unless you give that very feedback that helps the person to come out of his shackle or out of his chain, out of his limit. I hope I answered your question, Keshav. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have another question from Rotractor Aman. Did you ever face imposter syndrome? How did you deal with it?
Well, this is very much, in life, we need to admit that we are not perfect, and we should not strive to be perfect either. We face all this situation where you fail, and after a while you realize, oh, I should have done that, or why did not I do so? So yes, but the beauty is we always learn from our mistakes. But as the saying goes, don't make so many mistakes, and also learn from others' mistakes, right? Yes, we get carried away at times, but the minute you have that humility and realization and ability to admit that, yes, I should have done differently, that's when your mistakes become your machines to get better, right? So we strive for excellence, not for perfection. And we learn from every moment and situation and mistakes and our false pride as well at times. And that's what I call evolving experience with humility. Humility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So,
I have two more questions. I think we'll conclude after that. So Keshav has
okay,
again
great.
asked, it would be a pleasure to know if you describe your leadership style.
Thank you. Well, so far I've led in my area of business, tourism. And as I shared, opening Nepal for persons with disability. In that process, in last 7 years, though I've been involved in tourism for almost 28 years, but it's only last 8 years I got into this working for people with disabilities, what we call inclusive tourism, where we do not exclude anyone based on their physical disabilities or their intellectual disabilities or caste, creed, color. So in that process, what I realized earlier, I was a bit more in command and control type. Let me confess. I did go in more my way or highway approach in the beginning. And the more I traveled, more people I met, it made me humble. And now, if I may share what is my leadership style, I would say I'm a servant, servant leadership or service leadership with a lot of compassion. As long as people are taken care of and the team is made feel important, your more than half job is done. And what you need to do is empower and make them feel important in what they're doing. And I also call myself a lifelong learner. I truly believe that I don't know what I know, but I know what I don't know. That's why I inquire. Not my words, the words of Socrates, who said 2400 years ago, but that is valid. So you can become a humble and compassionate leader when you know that you don't know a lot. And when we know that we don't know a lot, we keep learning, and that's how we thrive and we become a more competent leaders, and we gain that competitive edge to lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we'll be taking the last question for today. The question is asked by Retractor Pramisa Paudel. Sir, on what basis do we evaluate that we have grown as a better leader that we were yesterday, except for the feedback from people?
Thank you, Pramisha, and thank you, Kesav, Rotrak Kesav, for your earlier question. This is something really important. We need to keep on asking. And the same question, adding a bit of spirituality or the law of nature, we keep on changing. It is very dynamic. As the saying that you don't step twice in the same river, because the river is not the same and you are not the same person either, right? So we keep changing. And what basis do we evaluate we have grown? Yes, we are growing every passing day. And it is not what others say, it is what you say is important. To you, when you ask yourself, why am I here? These are important questions. Am I here just to feel good, as Marcus Aurelius asked himself? Or am I here to make some impact and make my presence felt? Or to help my community, to help my family, to help my country or the humankind? So when you look, it is not important whether you impact or the lives of thousands or lakhs, but even one person, if you can improve, you should consider that you are growing as a leader. And again comes the humility. The more you learn, you become even more humble. We need to drop that arrogance, false pride, and discover your ignorance. The minute you discover your ignorance, you completely become a leader that everyone feels very comfortable with. They can share their not only good achievements or very impressive targets are achieved and they come and tell you, but they should be able to tell you when they do not achieve, they underperform, right? So others feedback important, work on that, but ask yourself, am I evolving? Am I getting better? You don't need to change. At times we think that what we were in the past are not good and we must get better by every passing day. The good traits has to remain, right? And we need to learn new attributes that helps us not just to become more competent and give you more competitive edge, but also makes you humble and grounded. So, no matter how high you go, when you come back, you are very much at ease and you are very much feel back home, right? So that is important, and that's how you evolve as a leader. That is my personal tech, and I hope it helps you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. The session was very insightful, and I hope all the participants who asked the questions have received the answers. If you want to get in contact with him, sir will be available. And if you need the slides, I think sir will also circulate that among us. So thank you very much, sir, once again. Um, I hope the partnership between Rotary International and Toastmasters International will continue in our local level and our district as well. And we hope to have you as speakers in our future sessions too. So,
Thank you.
concluding the session, I would like to provide you the token of love for providing such an insightful session. And I'd like to request Dr. Dinesh Goire to please present it.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to hand over this virtual token of love for the session, and we assure that the token will be delivered to you after all the situation becomes normal. So thank you so much.
This is not only virtual, right? So this is a real token as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you once again. I'm truly humbled to this opportunity. And yes, as Pritikaji said, let's take this opportunity, Toastmaster International and Rotary, the synergy that we are creating. Please drop by, attend the Toastmasters meeting, and embrace your fear, and you will enjoy that journey. Thank you, namaste, and have a wonderful assembly and the session in the remaining part of the assembly. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, sir. So with this, we would like to conclude the session here. You may return back to other sessions that the links are provided to you. So thank you so much, everyone, for your presence.